Hello, YNABers. My name is Jesse Meekum, and this is podcast number 52 for You Need a Budget, where we teach you 4 rules to help you stop living paycheck to paycheck, get out of debt, and save more money. Some of that money you've been saving needs to be invested. One half of YNABers say they are completely and utterly uneducated when it comes to investing. And I want to change that. One, by letting you know that it's not nearly as complex as you would think. I'm really excited about a company called Betterment that approached me probably a year and a half ago, but maybe a year ago. We were in the throes of YNAB 4, building that. I was too busy to pay attention, honestly, but now I am paying much attention, and I love what I've found. So I've done an interview here with Jon Stein of Betterment. Here it is. Okay, Jon, thanks for being on the podcast with me. I'm here with Jon Stein. He's the CEO of Betterment, and we are going to talk all about it here for the next 10 or 15 minutes or so. So thanks for being on.
Thanks, Jesse. Great to be here.
I'm pretty excited. I'm now a Betterment investor as of maybe a month ago.
Congrats.
And I set it up on autopilot. I've got on every first of the month, I've got money going in there, and I had it set to retire in 5 years. So I need to adjust that because I think the goal, the goal it gave me was I had to, I think, put away $14,000 a month. So I was curious what it would tell me. But at any rate, I found something much more reasonable, and I'm on autopilot there, and I'm feeling pretty good. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there that I'm rocking and rolling on it. But wanted to ask you, most of the people listening now have seen my review of Betterment, but I wanted them to kind of hear it directly from the founder. So I wanted to start off by asking you why you started Betterment.
So I studied economics and psychology as an undergrad at Harvard, and really loved both of those areas. I mean, the economics for the way it explained the macro world, and the psychology for what it said about how people think and make everyday decisions and how we interrelate. And then I started working in banking. So I went to consult for the world's largest banks for 5 years, and I was building products and doing risk management and all of this stuff for them, and quickly found that a lot of what they were doing had totally forgotten about the human element of the products. It was they were really optimized for bank profitability, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they sort of disregarded any of how their customers were actually using these things, and they saw things like teaser rates on mortgages and overdraft fees and late payment charges and all this kind of stuff is sort of unwittingly built to take advantage of customers' bad behavior and or neglectful behavior. And those are just a few examples. But in all these products, I saw real issues with how the product was presented and not being aligned with the customer's best interests. And particularly in investing, I saw some problems, and started talking to folks. I knew I wanted to start a company, and people just they really got it. They said, this is what I've been looking for. I mean, there's nothing out there that really helps me make better decisions with my money, that doesn't charge a ridiculous fee, and it just does smart things like invest in index funds and rebalance and so on. So I got started, got some other people who were excited about it, built out the team, and that's our founding story.
Awesome. So when you explain Betterment to people, it's, from my own experience, it was as easy to set up as a savings account online, which was the first thing that kind of jumped out at me. And so can you talk about your design process as far as designing this product? How you approached it, because it's obvious that you did things differently than, saying, going to any other online brokerage, honestly.
Right. So one of the cores, there's a few things that we held to be core. One of them was this has to just be incredibly simple. There's a lot of complexity out there that's unnecessary and that actually makes things worse for us. Some complexity is good, right? And there's some sophistication on the back end that makes our product better than anything else in the market. But the user experience that you're talking about, that had to be simple. It had to sort of boil it down to what's important so that our customers could focus on what mattered. And that carried over into the design of the sign-up process. And another one of our cores is this has to be accessible. So That means that your money's always accessible to you. There's no transaction fees. But also that means that you've got to be able to sign up in under 5 minutes and try it out without a minimum deposit, and all of those kinds of good things that make it accessible.
Yeah, I love. Just yesterday, what I've been trying to do is any extra money I find anywhere, I've been dumping in there, just kind of like just throwing it at, like maybe I find $90 or something, or get some random checks or something. And so one I had yesterday, I think it was for like $140. And I made the deposit, and I love that I go to the transfer screen. I think it's called transfers maybe.
Yep.
And there's two fields. It's like deposit, withdraw, and there's not a whole lot else on the screen really except kind of some explanations. And so I put in the deposit. I click OK. It asks me, "Are you sure you want to?" I say yes, and then it says, "Okay, it'll be here Wednesday or whenever." But the simplicity, and I'm a big Vanguard fan. I really like that company. And just comparing that process of investing with using Vanguards, I've also used Scottrade in the past. It's just it's not that one is like insurmountably hard, but it's just harder. And I love that aspect of it. It just, I don't know. It makes you want to do it more, which I think is a big win when it comes to investing.
We have really similar experiences. I used to invest with Scottrade, and I also used to invest with Vanguard, same companies. And so I tried a bunch of other things when I was young and like just out of college and sort of just investing my graduation money and kind of playing around. And I just found everywhere the experience was needlessly complex. There were multiple steps. There were advertisements for other products on every screen. Mm-hmm. There were like links to like thousands of different fund options, and frankly, most of those are really bad options.
Yeah.
And so why distract, and why put all these things out there? So we tried to streamline it and focus on what matters.
It's awesome. So if you could sum up your target customer, you're not. I'll maybe put words in your mouth, but it doesn't feel like you're targeting the day trader or the person that loves researching different mutual fund options, and certainly not. You're not targeting anyone that loves to do like single stock type picking. So
that's right. So on our platform, you can't do single stock picking. You can't, trade penny stocks. You can't you can't just like. We try to we've tried to build it so that we encourage good decisions, and that really means index investing and investing for the long term and those kinds of things. I think our typical customer comes to us because it's somebody like maybe like you or me, who's been investing on their own for a while. Maybe they've got some money at Vanguard or Fidelity or Schwab or one of these places, and they're doing okay. And then something happens, and it's maybe they get a raise at work, or maybe they get married, or they're about to have kids. And that thing that happens makes them think, okay, so my money's more serious. I've got more of it. It's more important to me. The future's more important. And I know I'm doing okay. I know I'm doing fine with what I'm doing, but I'm not sure that I couldn't be doing better. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I'm actually doing absolutely everything I could to maximize the value of my money and to secure my future, et cetera. So then they look around and they say, I definitely don't want to pay 1 or 2% for an investment advisor.
Sure.
That seems crazy. But Betterment, wow, this does basically the same things, maybe even does things a little better than the standard advisor would do, and it costs a fraction, between 10 and 25% of what an advisor would cost. So this is a great option.
Yeah, and I love that the fee. One thing that really jumped out at me, I mentioned this in the review, is the simplicity of the equation as far as here's what you've put in, and here's what has come out, and here's all the things that maybe came out. And one of them is Betterment fees, which I believe are they 15 basis points, 15 to 35 depending on your account balance. Is that correct?
That's right. And that's right. It shows up right there on your summary screen. We tell you, exactly how many fees we've charged over the lifetime of your account, by the way. So you can always see, here's what I've put in, here's what I've earned, and here's how much Betterment is charged. That's another core to us is transparency. It's important that you understand where your money's invested, how it's invested, and what you're paying to have it managed.
Absolutely. Now I know you guys invest, is it completely in ETFs? Is that accurate?
Yeah, so everything is in exchange-traded funds. We've got 6 stock ETFs and 2 bond ETFs, and you select the balance between those stock and bond baskets just by moving a slider on the site.
Gotcha. So on the ETFs, in my review, I tried to explain the expenses that happen with an ETF or with a mutual fund. I sometimes call them hidden because they're you go in and check your balance at any broker and you see the balance. You don't see that there was money taken from that mutual fund or from that ETF just by virtue of the fact that they have operating costs and all that. So could you just speak quickly to the ETF expenses that are there but not necessarily you can't break them out. They're never broken out for the investor to see.
Yeah, so any ETF has an expense, just like a mutual fund. Any mutual fund has an expense. It costs something to build and operate that investment vehicle. What you're paying for essentially is diversification. So instead of going out and having to buy, sample and buy hundreds of different stocks in order to get diversification, there's a company and there's a system doing that for you. In this case, we're buying ETFs from Vanguard and iShares. They're exchange traded, and that means that those guys are setting, here's the constituents of this ETF. To pay for it, they charge a little bit, and it's interesting actually how it gets charged. It comes out of the dividends. So all the constituent companies pay dividends. Vanguard or iShares collects those dividends, and then they pass those dividends along to you, our Betterment's customers.
Mm-hmm.
But they take just a little piece, and the average across all of the funds, it ranges from about 0.07% to 0.2%, and the average I think is about 0.15% across all of our funds.
So much. I mean, ETFs are traditionally much cheaper than most any.
Cheaper.
I don't think there. I mean, is there a mutual fund that you could find that would be cheaper than? I would be surprised if there were one. So.
Yeah, no. On average, ETFs are far cheaper, and part of that is they're just inherently more efficient because they're traded on the market, and you don't have to build pipes to a mutual fund in order to get money in and out. They're just more efficient. There's other things like mutual funds often have trading fees that aren't even disclosed in the expense ratio, and of course exchange traded funds don't have that because they trade on the market. And in the case of Betterment, we pay all your trading fees.
Gotcha.
It's a wrap account with us, so it's a great value.
So to compare what Betterment does, if I were to roll my own, which I know would be when I was kind of researching you guys, probably 8 or 9 months ago. The big thing that people were saying was, I could do this on my own. Why pay? And I looked into that extensively, and what I found was you could do it on your own. You would probably be paying another way, like you'd be paying in transaction fees, which you guys don't charge, or you'd be paying in time. And I think I deal with that as well. People say, I could build my own spreadsheet to use YNAB. And, I think, well, yeah, but 40 hours later, wouldn't be that much of a value. So.
Right, and you're updating it all the time. And
yeah.
And you're building a product that is vetted by experts and all of that kind of stuff.
So
there's values just to going with the product. So I always, one thing is the rebalancing alone is worth probably 40 basis points per year, which is more than our fee, far more than our fee. And if you were to sort of do this on your own, maybe if you compared, let's say you had no trading fees, you'd still be paying the ETF fees, of course, but you could maybe be saving like if you had a $30,000 account, you might be saving like $6 a month. But then you'd be losing that if you weren't doing the rebalancing.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be losing. I mean, if you spent 10 hours a year managing your finances, and let's say you're making $75,000 a year, well, that's $375 every year, which is $31 a month that you're spending just to manage your accounts. So, I mean, if your time is worthless and you're getting free trades and you behave perfectly, maybe you should be doing this on your own, and I would encourage that. But nobody's actually like that. So.
Yeah. People often give the advice, with mortgage rates as low as they are. This is a little off topic, but they'll say, well, don't pay off your mortgage. Just take that money that you would and invest the difference. And then they run numbers like, well, you can invest it and get 7.5, and your mortgage is 3, right? So they talk about that like it's the best idea, and the math all works. And then I always am asking people, do you invest the difference? And no one ever does.
Right.
Like nobody, nobody sits there and says, let me see, if I were to pay this off, I would, be spending $800 a month to do it. So instead I'm going to invest $800. Now, I've never met a single person that does that. They either said, oh, I paid off my mortgage, or they have never given it a second thought. So anyway, I think the same thing with investing. Like the world is just full of good intentions, but let's just admit that we won't sit down and rebalance unless we are just a freak, So
yeah, I compare it to exercise. I mean, I every year commit to exercise, and sometimes I put in place commitment devices. Like maybe I have a gym partner or something like that, and that forces me to actually get up and go and do it. But without those, like, boy, I start slacking off early, and that's doing something that's like very public. Everyone knows if you're going to the gym. Everyone knows, like, you're working out. Investing is this private thing, and it's so easy to slack off, and nobody knows, and you don't talk about it. So
that's great. So let me just ask you really quick, kind of to close out, what your future plans are. Let me have you speak really quickly to your gifting thing that you guys launched just recently, and then any other kind of future stuff that you're working on.
Yeah, so Betterment Gifts launched just a couple of weeks ago, and already has had a ton of good press and a lot of good usage. So people are setting up gift accounts for things like baby showers or college graduations or weddings, and this really grew out of my own wedding this last summer, where my wife and I didn't want to get a lot of plates and vases and housewares and things, and instead we wanted to invest in a future home, maybe buying an apartment in Brooklyn. And so we came up with a bunch of things that people could give us for that, and those gifts were directly invested into a home goal in our Betterment account. And there's this beautiful user interface that you set up, and you choose your gift, and you can upload photos and customize the page, and it's just a great way. It's sort of like the next generation of the savings bond. It helps people give long-term meaningful things to around events like weddings and so on.
So if I know someone's going to have a baby, could I, like, let's say I'm going to have a new niece or something, could I set that up on behalf of the niece, or is it something that maybe the parents would have to set up? I'm just curious about the logistics.
The parents would set it up on behalf of the niece.
Okay, interesting.
You could set it up, but it would be an account in your name, and it depends how close you are to your niece, I guess, if that's how you want to be doing it.
Yeah, and then it grows really big, and then I decide I don't like her as much as when she was a little baby. So.
Other features, basically, where the roadmap is packed with really exciting stuff. One of the things that we're coming out with this fall is improved advice. So we've got great advice on the site around how to set your allocation, how much you need to save to reach your goals, but we're always improving that, and we've got some really great new analytics about how you can get back on track and what's a good target for you to be setting. And as we go forward, we're going to be doing more around that. So we're actually going to have a savings vehicle. So right now you have bonds and stocks, and there's going to be a savings account as well. We'll have things like more tax advice and the sort of things that help on the margins, but also the big picture, rolling up across all of your goals. Are you on track? Mm-hmm. Are you saving enough as a percentage of your paycheck? How do you compare to your peers in that regard? Things like that.
Very cool stuff. Now, you guys do Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs. You handle those
Absolutely.
As well. Okay. Are you ever going to do a 401k?
It's a great question. It's something actually a lot of people ask about, and it's complicated. To offer a 401k, you've got to work with record keepers. You've got to get into all the employers, and because there's so much interest in it, it's something that's not off the table. But it won't be for a while if we do that.
Those are the worst. As far as we kind of mentioned transparency, and like 401ks. Truly, I feel like they're going in a black hole. Like I set up a 401k through our payroll provider, right? So the company has one, and I send money to it, and I just think, I wonder how that money, what will happen to it. So, and they're invested in good funds, and I actually had to pay extra and this was weird. It was like if I chose a certain family of funds, then everything was fine, and the cost was whatever. But then I said, well, no, I want to choose different funds, and they're like, oh, well, then it's more. And I was thinking, well, that's strange, but it just they have some deal with, I don't know how it even works, but I paid more to get some Vanguard target funds in there, so at least I knew, okay, we have some like index funds and not all this actively managed stuff that they kind of push on you. So anyway, it's not fun. It's not a fun place to be as an employer or an employee, and so it'd be cool if you guys could disrupt that some way. But yeah.
The expenses are high. One of the reasons that the expenses tend to be higher in 401ks is kind of interesting. It's that you tend to get more smaller accounts, and of course the big investment firms hate that because there's a per account cost to them, the customer service and paperwork and whatever systems they have going on, and they end up charging everybody quite a lot more because they're dealing with more smaller accounts. If you've only got big accounts, you're making more money per account, but as a percentage, it's less.
I see.
But for 401ks, they can't charge different percentages to different people. It has to be equitable and fair. So there's lots of rules around all of that, and that's why the fees are often higher. There's also this sort of in 401k space. There's a disconnect between the employer picks the plan and the employee has to invest in the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes, not in your case, I don't think, but in some cases, the employer just picks a plan that's not very good for the employees.
Yeah. I mean, you see a lot of people that are coming across and their 401k is either in a money market account and they had no idea, or it's in some, or it's in some random fund and who knows what the fund's doing, or they're not diversified at all. All sorts of weird things happen with that. I mean, even like the people way back in the day with the WorldCom and MCI debacles, where they had all this company stock and they were, just not diversified in that regard, and that was painful. So, well, this is cool. I'm excited about Betterment. I'm working on an investment, kind of a primer, something just to kind of educate people and teach them the basics, which is obviously old hat for you guys, but just let them know it's not as hard as you think. It can be hard, but it doesn't have to be hard. And
there's lots of people out there who try to make it hard. And my belief is really that it's grown up that way because that's how you charge more fees, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you make it simple as it should be, then maybe our customers will leave us. I don't believe that. I believe you make it easy, you make it convenient, you make it fast and painless, and that's how you build a business. But
yeah.
I think that's a different way than the business has evolved historically.
Well, that's cool. I appreciate you taking the time to do this interview. I'll put this up, get it going on our podcast, and then we'll see how it goes. So.
Until next time, follow YNAB's 4 rules, and you will win financially. You have not budgeted like this.